You know, I have to say that I had some great parents, and the pivotal point in my life was, you know, when they got divorced. It all happened. It was like a hurricane at the same time, or whatever. You know, the storm. I was 13 years old. I had found punk rock and skateboarding, and right at that time, you know, my parents were having a rough time in their marriage. So our home, I had no brothers, no sisters. So our home was kind of in turmoil, you know, and the anger from the punk, you know, it just fit right in. You know, that I just remember, you know, hearing, you know, my first punk rock song or going to my first punk rock gig, and I was like, this is who I am. I'm mad. And, you know, I'm sick of, you know, trying to be a good boy or whatever. You know, I'm going to let it fly because this is cool. So, you know, and that, you know, wasn't easy on my parents either. So that's really what started me down that road. I mean, I stole my first car when I was 14 years old. I've been to my first rehab at 14. You know, it just continued to get worse. I didn't know the pain that I was in. I didn't know, and nobody else knew, you know, at the time, that, you know, all we needed was Jesus. You know what I'm saying? We weren't really, I know my parents believed in God, you know, but we didn't go to church. You know, we weren't sold out for Christ for sure. So we looked to the world. You know, we looked to doctors and psychiatrists and, you know, prescription medicines and stuff, and none of it worked. Just none of it worked. So I just continued to get worse and worse, you know. I started shooting drugs, shooting heroin and cocaine and speed when I was 16 years old. And so right then, the consequences started getting greater because of the way that I used drugs and the way that I run and gunned. I mean, I was always to the max, you know. Anything that I do is, you know, I try to do the very best I can. And, I mean, even the junkies didn't want me around. They would get mad at me, you know. If junkies don't want you around, you know you got a problem. So, but that was just, you know, that was the kind of guy I was. I was full of anger, you know, lots of fights. If I wasn't stealing from people, I was robbing them, you know. And so, you know, through that, you know, I went to prison, you know, and that's where I really started. That's where the hate started to breed in too. You know, I had to go through that whole thing. You know, I was just looking for something, and it seemed like there was a lot of unity with that movement and all that stuff. And you know, I think I just wanted to belong. You know, and tell myself that I was you know, I'm bad. You know, and I'll, you know. Before you hurt me, I'm just going to unload on you, really, because there's, you know, fear. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to let you know that. So I'm going to go ahead and beat you up and get you away from me now, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, so I had to go, I went through all that. And I just remember when I got to the end of my rope, you know, I'd done all the prison time. I mean, I had tried to get my life right. You know, okay, I'm not going to use heroin anymore. I'm just going to drink beer and smoke weed. You know, I'm just going to, okay, now I'm just going to drink beer. And I tried all these things but it would always come back to the same. It would always come back to the same because I kept looking to the world to fix me. I've got this empty hole. I've got this God-sized hole in me. And I'm trying to fill it with girls. I'm trying to fill it with money. I'm trying to fill it with drugs and booze. And it was just impossible to fill. And I remember waking up in jail again and saying that prayer, going, God, if you just help me I mean, I'm done. I just remember just being done. And God heard me. I called my parole officer from the jail that day, and I said, look, I know you have no reason to believe me right now, but I'm done. And if you send me back to prison, I'm not going to change. I'm going to fall back into the whole game. And I'm just asking for you to have mercy on me right now and let me go to a rehab. Let me go to another rehab, or, let me just get right. And I did. I quit drinking. I did a 12-step program for 4 years, and I did it exactly the way they told me to do it, and my whole life cleaned up. The outside, I started a business. I know God had His hand on my life, and God blessed me with a hardwood floor business, and I married my wife, and we had Slater and Gibson, and already had Ricky Ray, and it was like everything on the outside was fine, but my marriage was just in turmoil. Because I was playing for a secular rock and roll band, and we were going places. We were about to go on a big tour, and things were about to start hitting for us. But it was the most important thing to me, more important than my family, more important than my kids, and God wasn't having it, Like I said, my marriage was just awful. We called it the yell house because we'd all yell at each other. We'd yell at Ricky. Ricky'd yell at us. Mom would yell at her. Yell. We'd yell back and forth and cussing and just aggro. And I remember my wife saying, you know what, I'm going to go to church. I heard about this church. I'm going to go to church. And I'm like, good. You need some spirituality in your life. You go do that. I've been doing this 12-step program, and I'm working it. You need to go get right. So she started going to church, and I remember coming home one day, and she was praying with my children before they ate. And the conviction that came upon